Hi, Team Alvin with eXp Realty coming to you again with the second edition of Coach's Corner. Today, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into successful budget creation. Now, we talked about credit the last time we met, and we also talked about the importance of creating a budget. I provided some tools at my website, which is rent2ownatl.com, so that you could utilize that tool to start creating your budget. Today, I want to dig a little bit deeper in some additional details on how you're going to create that budget and some things you're going to need to successfully create a budget. Remember, if you do not have a budget in place, then you do not know exactly what you're spending and when you're going to need to start saving unless you know what your budget looks like. So, last time we talked, we did speak about a little bit on the two platforms, which were creditkarma.com and Experian. The free versions, I did say free. There are paid subscriptions out there, but for the sake of this class, I want you to download those two platforms. Get those platforms on deck. If you find other platforms that are out there that are free, utilize those tools. Remember, there are three credit bureaus that we want to focus in on. That's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. As long as they provide you three of those reports so that you can look at them daily or monthly, then you're going to be on track when we revisit our credit section so that we prepare you for home ownership. We also talked a little bit about the FICO score, and just for a moment, just to hone in on a FICO score, the FICO score is a 3-digit number that's based off of information in your credit report. It helps the lenders to decide how likely you are to repay a loan. This in turn affects how much money you can borrow and how many months you'll have to repay and how much it will cost you. And we'll dig in deeper in the series about interest rates because that's going to have a direct correlation to the home buying process, and we will dig in deeper so that you better understand what the FICO score is and what it means to you and how important it is to you in the home buying process, as well as interest rates. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. I definitely appreciate those that have already done that. Please continue to hit that subscribe button. Call a friend. Let them know that the Coach's Corner is on. Have them to subscribe. Don't forget to go to the website, rent2ownatl over in the Coach's Corner. Sign up for class so that you are pinged whenever we upload content so that you can learn to grow through this process and eventually become self-sufficient in the process of gaining home ownership. I want you to grow. Subscribe, follow, like. Don't forget about us. Now, to start out, to successfully create your budget, you're going to need some tools. So the first thing you're going to need when you sit down to do this is to gather up your bills. Now, I know today that we are very cognizant about saving the planet, and a lot of us like to get things by email. But if you are a person that has a problem remembering when your bills are due, one of the first things I want you to reconsider is paperless bills. If you find your account being overdrawn often enough to where you are paying overdraft fees on a monthly basis, you may need to resubscribe to paper billing. That will serve as a reminder. There are other budgeting tools that you can use that are going to help you in the process so that you can keep up with your bills. But I am a tangible person. I like to see things in my hand. And so unless I am 100% comfortable that I can keep up with my bills, then I'm going to continue to receive those paper statements to be a constant reminder of when those bills are due. So remember, gather your bills, grab your calculator, and you can use a budgeting tool. Remember, rent2own ATL over in the Coach's Corner. The homework assignment from the last time we met, it's still available. I have dropped that link down below so that you can utilize that link. You may need to log on via a computer or a laptop, but I will also give you some additional tools that are digital so that you don't have to do that, and you can keep this information about your budget handy and on the go. Now, when we talk about bills, I want you to think about those high level bills. Those are going to be your rent, your car note, insurance, utilities, credit card, loans, groceries, eating out, cell phone, paid subscription, and extracurricular activities. I want to hone in on that because I have found with many of my clients, they have failed to calculate in their extracurricular activities. And because of that, they have found that they were losing money and didn't know it. If you run a business, it is very important for you to account for all of your business expenses, because if you don't know what is going out, then you don't know if you're hiring someone who's taking something from you, who's not paying you when you should be paid, and you will easily become in a deficitated state when you are not cognizant of what you've got coming in. Those are extracurricular expenses in our personal finance. That's to stop at the grocery store to pick up a soft drink. That's the corner store. That's going out to buy a gift for a friend, for maybe a housewarming party. That could be any expense that you have that does not fall into that high level expenses that you see reoccurring each month. You need to account for those expenses. So to find out how to keep up with your budgeting tools, I want you to use this. I want you to look at Nerd Wallet. It is available on the App Store as well as Google Play. And again, I am not affiliated with Nerd Wallet, but I do like their tool. It's called the Finance Tracking Tool. You can link your bank accounts to it. You can track what you're spending and keep that on the go. If you are still in the age of where you don't want to put your financial information online, completely understand. A lot of things are digital, but today we will talk about some tools that you don't necessarily have to use online. These are just going to be very, very, very elementary levels tools that you can use, but they are very impactful to your financial picture. So I want you to think about the Nerd Wallet tool. Again, there are so many other platforms out there with budgeting tools. I want you to get into it. Please think about downloading this app, look and see how this is going to benefit you and your financial future. If you can have it in hand, I think that it's going to be even that much more impactful so that you can refer to it whenever you find the time while you're out. If you're in a busy line in a store, if you're in the return line, if you are maybe, have something to do and there's a long wait, doctor's office or whatnot, you can always keep top of mind your finances by having it on your phone. Everyone uses their phone for just about everything. Budgeting should also be included in your wheelhouse. Now, remember, those extracurricular costs that I talked about, well, that's because a lot of our extracurricular costs are really not accounted for, simply because those are going to be those store receipts that you get when you buy items that you don't necessarily intend to return or anticipate a problem with it where you'll have to return it. Those receipts are going to be extremely vital for you to keep over the next 30 days. I am asking for you to commit, because in order to actually see the full picture of your budget, you're going to have to know what you're spending. Even if you're not spending money on the same product each month, those receipts are going to come in very handy. That means that every time you go to a store and you purchase something, grocery store, beauty supply store, whether you dropped by the Walmart, if you're getting a new broom for your house, I want you to account for every dollar that you spend each month. If you bring those receipts home, put them into a folder, put them into a Ziploc bag, staple them to the wall, or tape them to the refrigerator, whatever you have to do to keep up with that, and put a reminder on your calendar and remind yourself to go back and review those receipts and add them to this month's budget. That's how you're going to get a chance to see the full picture of those receipts. Once you have utilized those receipts and collected the data that you need from them, then please dispose of those receipts in a very eco-friendly way. Now, let's talk a little bit about budget. I apologize if this is not easy to see, but I wanted to just kind of throw it out here to let you know how simplistic it is for you to create a budget. In the budget, what you'll see are childcare expenses, grocery, gas, self-care, eating out, entertainment, car insurance, cable, rent, renter's insurance, very important if you are a renter, and your water bill, and your car note. These are some of the basic expenses that we see each month. This is where I want to really hone in also, because a lot of these expenses are reoccurring. And when we go back to visit credit, we'll talk a little bit about how important reoccurring debt is to your credit. And so these expenses that you're paying every month need to be accounted for in your budget. And I'm going to throw a little pro tip out there at you. If you have subscribed to the Experian platform on credit, you can boost your credit score by reporting things like your gas, water, cable, and cell phone bill to give you an automatic boost to your credit. But that's later in another segment. I want to move on. Now, once you've gotten your budget in place, you need to factor in how much money you're bringing in for the month. Remember, some people are getting paid every 2 weeks. Some are getting paid bi-weekly. Some are getting paid once a month. I like to look at things from a monthly perspective because it gives me the full picture at the end of the month. If you bring and you factor in what you're bringing in, let's say in my scenario, you're bringing in $2,700 a month, but your bills are actually costing you $36.20. That means that you have a deficit. You don't have enough money to make ends meet at the end of the month, and therefore you've got a problem. Deficits are so real because Americans typically live and thrive on credit card usage. But in turn, what that does is it increases credit card debt, it reduces net worth, and it keeps you in a constant state of indebtedness. Now, I'm not saying that all debt is bad, and we'll learn later on in our series that there is some positive things to having debt, but how much debt is too much debt? If you find yourself in this scenario, plug your own numbers in, create a list. You can use a piece of paper, you can create a spreadsheet, you can use one of the apps to help you understand what your financial picture looks like. Because once you look at what your numbers are and all of your bills are, and you add, and you factor in how much your bills are, and you subtract your total amount of income that you come in, that's net, that's after taxes, what actually goes into your bank account or what's printed on your check, that's where you're going to determine whether or not you have a deficit. If you have money left over, then you have what's called a surplus or disposable income. That's really where we should all aspire to be, is to make more money than we have to spend. That will open us up to another lesson on saving. But if you find yourself in a scenario where you've got a deficit, in this scenario, there is a deficit of $920 because the person's budget in this scenario is more than what they're bringing in. That creates a problem. So if you find yourself in that situation, this means we need to make some cuts. We've got to cut and reduce some cost. When you look at some of the orange highlighted areas, those are some areas that I believe are going to be the most feasible place to make some cuts at. You will have to make some cuts, but in order for you to cut, you're going to have to be realistic on what you can cut. Now, if you've got childcare expenses and you've got a grocery bill, that you've got to cut, that may not always go hand in hand either. So even if you cut some expenses, you may not have enough money to put you into that surplus or at least get you to make the ends meet. And later in the series, we will talk about community. We will talk about some ways and some things that you can do in order to help pull you out of that. But we will also talk later about that. And that's going to dig in a little bit on mindset. So I want you to consider your deficits whenever you're thinking about creating your budget, I want you to be actionable. I want you to start today. Please utilize those tools. I want you to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position so that you are prepared for home ownership. I am here to help you get ready for the game. Thank you so much for joining this edition of Coach's Corner. Remember, if you have any questions, drop me a comment down and I would be more than happy to answer those questions. Remember, you are available to speak with me. You can go to www.rent2ownatl.com and schedule a call with me via Calendly. I'd like to talk with you. I want to help you be prepared for the game.